We will discuss today one of the most important topics in all spiritual matters: thoughts. What exactly are the thoughts? Where from do they come? What is their source or origin? What is the nature of thoughts? We shall try to examine today. Thoughts are a mental activity. In fact, thoughts don't happen in a container called mind, though generally people think that thoughts occur in the mind as if we have a container mind and thoughts appear within the mind. Mind, as a matter of fact, is nothing but the current thought, a particular thought wave that emerges itself is the mind of the moment. But conventionally, we think a series of thoughts constitute what we understand commonly as the mind. What exactly is the thought? Thought is a form of energy. That is quite evident from the fact that thoughts are now harnessed by quadriplegics to move their chairs. So a particular thought, move or stop, turn on right or turn left, just by mere thought of that movement, the quadriplegic's chair moves. Our ancient sages, they found that the intensity of thoughts is closely related to our breathing. If we control our breath, we control the flux density of thoughts. Thereby, the whole system of pranayama has emerged. You slow down your breathing, and the thoughts too slow down in their appearance. All our experience, in fact, are nothing but thoughts. We normally think that the thoughts occur somewhere inside our head, and whatever we perceive, that is all external to us. Even though the perceptions are external, ultimately you view them only as a thought. You understand them or you know them only as a thought. Thought has also occupied a central position in meditation. By focusing on a specific thought or a mantra or a flame or an ideal, you can concentrate your brain waves and can achieve changes in your behavioral pattern. The Buddhist monks, yes, particularly focus on compassion, with the result that the neural connections within their brain get altered. So the phenomenal manifestation of thinking or thoughts can be seen as the brain waves. The normal consciousness that we think we have when we perceive things, when we feel emotions, and so on, are recorded as cycles of about 40 oscillations per second. You have different techniques of meditation which use either focusing on a particular thought or just watching the mind wandering. That means the thoughts will be emerging and you don't interfere with whatever the thought is. You keep only watching them. This is called as mind wandering. So by either adopting a focused aim like compassion or a mantra, or by allowing only mind wandering, the effect produced will be different. It could be either generate relaxation in the body, relieve you of all the tensions, or it may help in achieving particular states of consciousness in the brain. The effect of meditation on the neuronal connections has been investigated quite a bit for over 20 years or 25 years now, with the cooperation of Buddhist monks, by scientists in Wisconsin and a few other universities also. The thoughts have so much of an effect on the whole body system that the genes are not anymore considered to be the determining factors of our characteristics and behaviors. Of course, the genetic influence from the parents is at its maximum when the conception takes place. But beyond that, everything is decided more by the environment in which the egg and the fetus and the embryo, they grow within the womb of the mother. The environment within the womb means the chemical characteristics of the various fluids within the womb. They have quite an influence on the characteristics, including the temperament of the baby that will be born. That is why even the thinking, in addition to the food and the environment that the mother is exposed to during her pregnancy, has a great influence on the behavioral pattern of the child that is born. A few months back, it was shown that thought can influence what sort of proteins are produced by the genes. And the proteins determine in what way our response systems will get governed within the body. Let me show you a slide, proof of concept work published towards the end of 2014, wherein a few volunteers have been trained to meditate, and their meditations are recorded onto a computer, which then sends a signal by Bluetooth to a rat in which a human gene is transplanted. So depending on the type of meditation which is practiced by these volunteers, a particular wavelength of light is generated and transmitted to the gene which is implanted within the rat. Triggered by this light wave, the gene produces a specific protein. If the light is shut off, the gene doesn't produce anymore that protein. So this clearly shows how even thought can influence the changes in our genetic system. All this happens because the genes are really controlled by a stretch of DNA which is beyond the genes. People earlier used to think of it as junk DNA, which is totally considered to be useless. But now scientists understand that the switches that trigger the gene exist within the junk DNA. And more recently, I think a few weeks back, there's another exciting research paper that has come out. A human being is supposed to have about 20,000 odd genes. And all these genes are not obtained through inheritance or through biological evolution. Nearly about 600 genes seems to have come due to some other extraneous factors, and nobody knew where from they have come. It looks now that this junk DNA is the cause for them. There is a mutation that happens within the junk DNA and new genes are generated there. So we can produce new genes through epigenetic effects. And these genetic characteristics can be then passed on to our children. So combining these two significant discoveries in science, we can say that our thoughts have the capacity to change even our genetic structure. As on today, at least one such de novo gene which has emerged through mutations in the junk DNA, has been identified within the brain. And perhaps there are more like that. So by thought as a tool in meditation, and through meditation, we can change our behavioral characteristics. So it's not, so these are very significant findings which clearly tell us the significance of thoughts. Then where from all these thoughts are coming? See, if you close your eyes and just observe the thought, don't worry right now, whatever thoughts you are getting, irrespective of the content of the thought, if you just observe the thought, you cannot really locate it to have occurred in any specific location. If you feel that the thoughts are occurring somewhere behind the eyes or somewhere in the head, that's only a belief. If you really try to put a finger on that location, you will not find any particular place which you can refer to. Perhaps I should request you to keep your eyes closed and relax all your bodily muscles. Normally, we have tensions in the forehead, eyebrows, cheeks, neck, shoulders, chest, abdomen, a little bit in the thighs, calf muscle, toes. So feel all these body parts and relax them. If you have a little bit of tension in the forehead, you may feel that is the source of your thoughts, or the source of the thoughts is somewhere behind the forehead. If that is the case, please rub gently your forehead and eyebrows and relax. And if you try to locate the source, you will not find any particular point. As your eyes are closed, you don't see even your body. So the thoughts occur in a placeless space. And the space doesn't have any boundaries. You can't see the edges of this space. So thoughts emerge in that placeless space. Now continue with closed eyes. Now pay your attention to the sounds you are hearing. Don't worry what sound is coming. It may be sound from my mouth, or there may be sounds around you. If you listen to the sound and try to locate where the sound is heard by you, you will find even that sound is heard somewhere in a placeless space. Now let us add on a third sensation, a body sensation to this, touch. You are right now sitting on your chair and you feel a sensation at your bottom. Just watch the raw sensation. Don't try to name it as a butt sitting on the chair. These names of your bottom and the chair, these are all subsequent thoughts. If you just focus on that feeling, that jingling feeling, either in your feet or where you are feeling the pressure of the seat, those sensations also happen somewhere in a placeless space. So combine all these things now, the thoughts which are occurring somewhere in placeless space, the sounds are heard there, so also the bodily sensations, whether tingling in the feet or the pressure in the bottom. So all these sensations as well as thoughts, they all occur in a placeless space. This placeless space is no particular point. You can't give XYZ coordinates to it. And whether it is the thought or the sound or the bodily sensation, how do you know them? You just detect them, you just sense them because of your quality to be able to detect them, to feel them. At that particular moment, when you know a thought or hear a sound or feel the sensation, you don't find two things there, a thought and somebody who is thinking. Similarly, you don't find a sound and somebody who is hearing. You don't find the tingling in the feet and somebody who senses that feeling. At the moment when you have those imaginations, thoughts, sounds, only those exist, nothing else. And you know that they exist because of your ability to know them. So in effect, there is nothing but knowing these different types of sensations. Unless you call one type of sensation as thinking, another type of sensation as sound, another type of sensation as a jiggling in the feet or tingling in the feet. These are all classifications which you give through later identification. Otherwise, they have no names. You just have those vibrations felt. So all these vibrations are just known by you. So they are nothing but the knowing of them, which is giving the appearance to them, those things. So the knowing of them is present there, so it is existing, and it has that quality of knowing. So it doesn't mean that there are two things, something which is existing and something which has the quality of knowing. In fact, that knowingness itself is modulating into these different forms, whether there are different forms of thoughts that are occurring to you, whether there are different sounds, you know them And that knowing remains constant. It doesn't change. Only the form keeps changing. And all this is happening in a placeless space. So that knowingness, which has no characteristics, that itself is taking the shape of a thought or a sound or a sensation of the body. So these are the modulations. The Sanskrit name for the modulation is vritti. Whatever is there, it is appearing in that form. And whatever is there is that knowingness only. And this is nothing but what is pointed out by the name Brahman. So that placeless space which exists and which has that character of knowing is Brahman. The English name for Brahman is consciousness, as we use. So consciousness is that attributeless, undefinable, open, placeless space which has no describable characters, no boundaries. And this open space itself is taking the form of thought, the form of the bodily sensations, or even the perceptions. So the world that you see is ultimately only a thought. The bodily sensations you feel are only a thought. And they are all nothing but the modulations of consciousness.